Please introduce yourself briefly.
My name is Katriel Schory, and I'm the Executive Director of the Israel Film Fund.
Okay. How many films a year does Israel produce?
Israel produces on average about 27, 28 films every year, about two-thirds of them with public money support, and the rest really people do with their own private money, equity, family, and so on.
Mhm. What is the share of international foreign investments in these films?
It's actually quite high. I would say that one-third of all the money invested in Israeli feature films come from overseas in the form of co-productions. In other words, it's a very significant element and part in the budgeting of the Israeli films.
What was the situation 15 years ago when you took over the film fund?
I think that the mid-late 90s were the worst years in the history of Israeli cinema, when we practically completely lost our audiences in Israel, which was a very difficult situation. The box office admission for Israeli feature films at that time was hardly 1%. And also, to a large extent, we disappeared from the festival scene. And we had to reinvent ourselves, and mainly we had to find a way to reconnect and reinvent our audiences in Israel. It was a long process. It took about 4 to 5 years to turn it around. We were lucky and we managed to do it.
How did you do it?
We did it in the different ways. The first way was really to check exactly and make a major change in the selection process, in the kind of stories that we greenlight. When I came, I thought that we should open up the fund to stories and projects and filmmakers coming from the regions, coming from all walks of life in Israel, from the different multicultural society that we are in. The second thing that I thought that we should really embark on a massive campaign to reconnect again with the audiences, reaching out to the audiences, not waiting for them to come to the cinemas, but going to them with the Israeli feature films. So we went with them to the Israeli feature films to the audience, and we went to everyone, and we asked them for one thing: give us one more chance. It was a long process. We went to every possible way. We did endless projects in towns, in the big cities, to reconnect again. And we told them, yes, we knew that in the past you had not a very nice experience watching Israeli films. Things have changed. Give us one more chance. It took time. It took, as I said, a number of years. But at the end, it really worked. So in 98, we had hardly 1% of the box office admission. In 2004, we had 14%, which was a massive change, but a tremendous amount of work, really going to every possible corner of the country, reaching out to young people, to senior citizens, to niche audiences, going there saying, give us one more chance, things have changed, and so on. And at the end, it really worked.
What is the legal status of film fund in Israel, and how do you work with the government,
Okay, the cinema law in Israel is a very interesting one, because we are a complete licensed and registered NGO. We are not a department in any ministry. We are not a government agency. We are a fully registered and licensed NGO. It's true that the budget we get via the government from the Ministry of Finance. And there's a whole system that goes. But the fund is not a government agency, and it's quite completely independent. I have on top of me a board of directors and a chairman, and 60% of my board are representatives of the sector, the industry, and 40% of the government can send whoever they want. So basically, we are always in a situation of the majority of the sector in my board of directors, which is 15 people. So from this standpoint, it gives us a tremendous flexibility to answer immediate needs of the industry in real time. It gives us also a certain freedom, and gives us actually a complete creative freedom in terms of the project we select and so on.
What is the annual budget of the film fund?
The annual budget of the fund that I manage, which is only for full-length narrative feature films, is about 7 million euros.
Mm.
There is another NGO with a complete separate board and everything for documentaries only. It's a separate fund. And there's again another separate fund for shorts and experimental and this and that.
Can you give me some numbers about the box office admittances, and do you know them in Israel?
For everything or for Israeli film?
For Israeli film, yes.
In Israel, we have about 390 screens within about 104 venues, which are multiplexes and so on. Altogether about 90,000 seats. We sell for all the films, American, this and that and so on, about 13 million tickets a year, 13, 14. I would say that the potential moviegoers in Israel are about 6 million. And out of this, as I said, the Israelis film have had in the last 2 or 3 years about 12% of the box office, which is not bad, more than 1 million tickets. This is more or less the landscape of the cinema industry. It's not bad for the size of the country to have 390 people. We don't see in recent years a decline in the number of moviegoers. It stays more or less the same. Maybe because of the weather, maybe because Israelis like to go out, maybe I don't know why or how, but basically the number more or less stays. If you check it in the last 5 years, is all around 12, 13, 14 million tickets, but you don't see like a dramatic decline in movie going.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the project I'm presenting here about the Moldovan cinema, KEF?
I think it's a great project because I believe that because I really sincerely believe that there is an audience for what we call art house, which I don't know, it's a very broad word, but there is definitely an audience for other types of films that people would like to see. And I think that there's a big market for full-length documentaries, that some of them could do very well. And I believe that there's definitely a place for a center of films, that shows films that people would like to come and see. It's a matter of really organizing it and setting it up, branding it in a very clear way, and people will eventually know that if they want to see a certain type of cinema, they can go and see it over there. I can tell you from my own experience that in many countries that I've seen, there is a market. There is a market. It may not be a huge one, but there is a market and there is a thirst of quite a number of people to see films which are to a certain extent meaningful, which have value, which have some merit, but which are also accessible, communicative, and relevant. And I believe that there's enough films that we can have in forward to choose and program and have a rich, interesting, international variety type of films, and people will come and see. I think it's doable, it's workable, and there is a place. And sometimes by just setting up such a cinema, all of a sudden you see people coming out from different places that you never thought, and then all of a sudden you can be surprised about how much interest and curiosity it can generate.
Okay, thank you for believing and mentoring it.